On today's Into Your Head number 724, my throat is fucking killing me, but Nelson Mandela would have done a podcast in these conditions, so who am I to not do one? And lots more. Into your head. Join me at a tremendously exciting moment. It's Into Your Head, number 724, and my throat is fucking killing me, but Nelson Mandela got through his throat killing him and all sorts of other stuff, and he's still alive and well, despite having died yesterday. He died, so I suppose I'm still alive, so I've nothing to complain about, so I can't be putting off podcasts just because my throat is killing me, just because I'm being imprisoned by the common cold. No, I'll try and mask it with alcohol. It's an evening record at the moment, although that may well change in the next few minutes. It may suddenly time shift to tomorrow morning or the next morning when I run out of steam. But suffice to say, no, we're no longer going to let the common cold put me off recording. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. Anyway, hello. Hello, and hello. Christ. This is non-caffeinated Tesco original dry cider, so I don't know if it'll have the same effect that my usual caffeination and energy drinkation regime before the programme has on the content. But it'll have to do. Well, it might. It doesn't have to do. We can just give up if it doesn't do. We can give up. We can just give up and just give up to the gods of complacency and laziness and what do you call it? What's that thing? The man flu. That's what they call it. Any women, when they hear a man has the cold, they say, oh, that's the man flu. Of course it's the man flu. It'd hardly be the woman flu. I don't get the woman flu because I'm not a woman. I get the man flu. One of these days they'll say, oh, that's sexist. We have to have one flu for everybody. One flu, one sex, one flu, one world. We'll have none of this different flus for everybody, and then we'll all have the same flu. And women will have the man flu too, and we'll have the women flu, except it'll all be called the same thing. They'll just say it's all the same. It's all the same. Everybody's equal. We're all equal. Which I suppose in a way is true, but in another way it's not true at all. If you go and ask a doctor who spent his entire what do you call it, postgraduate studies researching the flu, he'll tell you they're not all the same at all. There's 874 different types of flu just in the first month of the winter season every year, and then the second month of the winter season it starts all over again, because in some parts of the world winter starts in November and in other parts it starts in December, so it starts all over again, and these diseases travel the globe. One day you'll hear on the news, oh, some fella in China hiccuped, and then 2 days later you'll hear the hiccup that started in China is now here in Western Europe. Everybody's hiccuping like the plague, except it's not like the plague at all. That's just an expression. Hiccuping is not like the plague, although maybe there was a plague at some point that involved hiccuping, and hiccuping while itself was not a huge issue, unless you're one of those people who they do freak shows about on the Discovery Health Channel who get the hiccups for 5 years and it destroys their lives. But no, apart from that, hiccuping itself is not a major problem. But if it's a sign of if it's one of the early symptoms of the plague or the latest plague, the hiccup plague, then it's a worry. And I tell you, then the shit will hit the fan, and the fan will break, because modern electrical devices, when you throw shit at them, they usually turn themselves off. I've got a heater fan in here, and if a cat comes in here and happens to tip it with its paw, it goes off balance, it automatically switches itself off in the interest of safety. Same with my toaster, except they're slightly different. If my toaster gets full of crap, either metaphorically or literally, I'll although I've never tried the latter. I've never tried putting real crap or exposing my toaster to real crap, because that would void the Argus insurance. I got a new toaster yesterday. My wife brought the old toaster into Argus and says, I got this Argus $8.99 toaster insured a year ago, and now it's wrecked already. So here's my insurance. Give me a new toaster, please, and I'll just buy the new insurance for $240 something and get a new toaster for free, or at least a quarter of the normal cost. It's absolutely fucking fantastic. You can insure everything in Argus. This chair underneath me, this is insured in Argus. Thank Christ for that, because it needs to be replaced. So I'm going to replace it next time I'm there. I didn't want to be going into Argus with a toaster and a chair and whatever else is broken in the house, because it'll look a bit strange. Then they'll say, do you just break everything? Which indeed I do. That's why we buy fucking insurance for everything off here. I still want to save face and not go in with everything at the same time. So I stagger my Argus insurance returns. Anyway, on with the show. Two plague sufferers walk into a bar. One of the plague sufferers goes straight up to the bar counter and says, he doesn't say anything because he breaks into a hiccup straight away, a series of hiccups in fact, and the man behind the bar says, oh, I think you've had enough already, sir. I think you've had enough. And the hiccup sufferer says, you see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Judgmentation or judgmentalism or whatever you call it. Here I am, I come in with the hiccups because I've got the hiccup plague, and straight away this fella assumes I'm drunk. As in childish cartoons, when they portray someone as being drunk, they put in hiccups. They say hic, hic, hic. That's what they used to do in Whizzer and Chips and the Beano anyway. If someone was drunk, they'd put in hic, hic, hic. Because these were children's comic books and they couldn't exactly put in the real adult symptoms of drunkenness that you see in the real world. So it was just an innocent little hilarious little hiccup. And the man behind the bar says, sir, we don't serve your type in here, your drunken type. And the man in front of the bar says, I beg to differ, sir. Not only do you serve my type in here, you create my type in here by vending alcohol like there's no tomorrow. Vending alcohol like there's no tomorrow. There's no tomorrow, and we're going to wake up and regret this. We're going to wake up in the morning and say, Christ, where's my paracetamol? Where's my headache tablets with contents that may well destroy my liver just as effectively as the stuff I drank last night did? And the man behind the bar says, he doesn't say anything. He doesn't say anything because nowadays people are afraid to say anything to anybody in case they get sued. You can't say anything to anybody. He thinks, Christ, this fella has some disease or something, some plague, and if I say anything to him, I'll be in the news in 3 months' time for some tribunal. There'll be some tribunal where the so-called victims of so-called bar discrimination against hiccup plague sufferers will be suing the bar trade for some crap because we didn't serve them or something. Well, in actual fact, bring it on, because if they sue me, I'll just pass on the cost by suing the makers of these children's comic books that I used to read as a child. Although they're all in England, so I'll have to go to England then and set up under another country's legal system and get lawyers over there. It'll probably be prohibitively expensive, so maybe I'll just keep my mouth shut. And the hiccup plague sufferer says, I see you've gone quiet now. And the barman says, do you indeed? Maybe I'm ventriloquizing. You may see that I'm gone quiet, but maybe I've got my mouth closed, but I'm throwing my voice somewhere. In actual fact, I'm saying a lot of stuff. And the hiccup sufferer says, are you saying I'm deaf? And the barman says, well, if you don't know the answer to that question, clearly you are. But everyone's welcome in here. Nothing against deaf people or hiccup sufferers or people with the plague, as long as you don't give me the plague. You're not going to give me the plague, are you? You can give me a plaque if you want. I like putting plaques up behind the bar. Things for, various things, for local football team awards and things like that. But not plague. Give me plaques but not plagues. Ho, ho, ho. And certainly not the other type of plaque that dentists complain about. Although they don't complain about it, they just give out to you and then you pay them for doing so. And the man in front of the bar says, Christ. And the man behind the bar says, Christ too. And the man in front of the bar says, oh, some sort of a sequel, is it? Christ 2, the homecoming, the return of the king. And the barman says, no, I meant Christ 2 as in T-O-O, but I didn't say 2-O-O. The narrator said, and the barman says Christ 2. But I was just explaining the fact that I said Christ. I didn't say Christ 2. The narrator added the 2 as part of his narration. And the man in front of the bar says, oh, that's very interesting. That's very interesting indeed. And the man behind the bar says, indeed it is, indeed it is, indeed it is. What are we, 10 minutes in now? You're trying to do a podcast on cider instead of your usual energy drinks and tons of espressos. Is that right? How's that working out for you? And the podcaster says, to be perfectly honest, I'm finding it hard to keep it up here. I'm not sure. I'm kind of drifting in and out here. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to keep this up, but we're a third of the way into the standard length half-hour show now, so maybe I will. The wife is out for the evening at a work function, a work Christmas function, one of many work Christmas functions. That's not to say she has several jobs, where a job involves working in several different venues, all of which have their own independent functions. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. And the barman says, did someone say something? And the man in front of the bar says, I think it was the narrator talking. Apparently this is going to be on a podcast, whatever that is. And the man in front of the bar says, oh, I think that's some kind of a technology thing. It's for people who, for whom radio is not good enough. They want their own personalised radio that they download, that some fella does on his broken office chair that he should have got brought in with the toaster, but he was too full of insurance pride to do it, and he's putting it off until his next trip to a town that has an Argus in it. He'd probably even go to a different branch of Argus as well. Fucking Egypt. And the man in front of the bar says, I can't remember who was speaking last, was it you or me? And the man in front of the bar says, well, now it was you, but before that I'm not sure. Well, you were the last person to speak before I said this in response. That probably doesn't help at all, does it? And the man in front of the bar says, well, it does help in a way. It moves the conversation on so we can forget about the issue of who was speaking last. And the man behind the bar says, oh, that's great. That's great. And a great night is had by all. Now, I know what you're thinking there. You're thinking, oh, this is different. This is very different from anything I've heard anywhere else today on, what do you call it? I call it the internet. I call it the worldwide internetwork. The internetwork of, it's an internetwork of other networks, basically, where networks, that's the way it used to be explained to us anyway in the early days. You'd go on and say, oh, I've heard about this World Wide Web. Could someone please explain to me what it is? And some fella or some woman would come on whatever you were listening to. Maybe it was a radio program, or maybe it was a conversation that you were involved in a pub. Anyway, whoever you were listening to or possibly interacting with would say, oh, the World Wide Web. Well, basically, it's a network. It's a network of interconnected other networks. And you'll say, what's a network, though? And they'll say, well, it's a network is a network of interlocking networks. Although you're probably wondering what a network itself is. And you'll say, indeed I am. And they won't hear you if you're listening to this on the radio, but they will if you're having a one-on-one conversation with someone in the pub. I haven't specified which it is because I'm not familiar with your past. It's just an example. I'm trying to keep the example as broad as possible and not narrow it down so everyone can get in on this. Oh yes, they'll say a network. Well, it's basically things that are connected together. Things that are connected together, like for example the bricks in your wall, the bricks in the walls of your house, they're all connected together, through a series of wires and cables and possibly wireless connections as well, although they're not really, but it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. The bricks in your house are probably a lot more connected technically in physical terms than the hubs of an internet network. Was just an example. It's an example. You have to explain these things using the example of something that already exists and is understood by the people who you're trying to explain this to. That's what metaphors are all about. But let's not get bogged down in the internet. Although let's do get bogged down in the internet, because the internet is the only reason we're here. I wouldn't be here if I hadn't back in late 2003 sat down and said, I'm bored, I'm going to go out and do a web design course, and then after the second Thursday night of the course, I'm going to go home and set up my first ever website. I'm going to type some stuff on it. I think I typed I set up I've got I make websites when there's nothing on TV page. That was my first website, and I put a series of short writings on it, not unlike the type of stuff that you put on Twitter today. In fact, now that I think about it, I probably invented Twitter in a way, as my first website was 2 pages of short sentences, such as, for example, which came first, the chicken or the egg? It's clear that it was the egg. It was one evolutionary step away from becoming a chicken. There was a creature that was one evolutionary step away from that, or something along those lines. I was very proud of it at the time. I said, oh, look, I can write humour. Someday if someone sets up a Twitter of some kind, I'll be able to use this there. And you'll be able to follow me at Into Your Head Pod. Be absolutely fucking fantastic. For now, I'll just figure out how to make a static HTML page using what I've learned over the last 2 nights at my web design course that I've stayed in Dublin half the night for after work and got home at something like midnight and got to get up again at 6:30 in the morning to go into my job. I was fine though, not complaining. Wouldn't be doing this now today if I hadn't done that. Well done to the me of the past for doing that. He did that for a bit and then he started Matchstick Cats. He says, I'm going to do a web comic about cats based on my Matchstick Man comic that I've done a few episodes. I was just going to add pointy ears and whiskers to it basically, and then I did that. Anyway, where are we? We're on our second bottle of Tesco original dry cider. That's where we are. Makes a change from the fucking coffee. I drank a load of coffee this morning in hopes of making a podcast, and all it did was make my throat more raw than it already was. Jesus Christ. There's a time when you just give up and you use alcohol instead. You say it's all very well trying to be active and be getting your brain going, but sometimes you just have to kill off your brain. Not directly, you're trying to kill off your throat, your sore throat, and numb it. But if it has the side effect of killing off a few brain cells and numbing your brain for a few hours or for the rest of your life, then so be it. It's called a side effect. Everything in medicine has side effects, so why should alcohol be any different? Back in the old days, before they knew that you could drink alcohol, they used to rub it on wounds, and I'm sure it had side effects then too, but you didn't see people going, oh no, don't rub alcohol on my wound, that'll have a side effect, it'll do something to my liver or something. And the doctor will say, oh, I wouldn't know anything about that, sir. It's the 13th century, that stuff. We don't know anything about that then. Yes. Would you like some unpasteurised milk? And you'll say, what's unpasteurised milk? And they'll say it's basically all milk that's around today, because pasteurisation hasn't occurred yet, hasn't been invented yet. Louis Pasteur is he's but a blob of sperm in Mrs. Louis Pasteur's mother's husband's whatever. I don't know. When was Louis Pasteur born? There's a question. Well, we look that up. We will not. We will not. I'm not going to get bogged down. My internet's been acting weird today. I think it's okay now, but I'm not a bit bored of trying to do stuff on the internet, even though I think it's back to normal now. But what's normal for the internet? I'll tell you what's normal for the internet. Do a search for sheep dressed as cats, and then you'll see what's normal for the. Oh, I must search that now because I haven't. You're probably assuming that because I've said that, that's the search term I've used. I haven't. I'll do it now, though. Sheep dressed as cats. Search. Cats in sheep's clothing. The poodle cat is a quirky gene is classified as a ... Mariah Carey slips into plunging red and white dresses to sing at ... I'm not going to click on that link. I don't want to hit my search history. Well, I was saying my search history, but I don't want to hit my browsing history. Not because I'm afraid I'll get in trouble or anything. I just don't want to come back tomorrow morning and see, Christ, what did I do while I was drunk? I hope I didn't make a podcast. Although I'll probably know then next time I go to make a podcast, I'll see, oh, I didn't know I'd already done 724. I'll have to label the next one 725. You'll notice the previous episode, incidentally, was 723A. That's because it wasn't new content. It was me introducing old content and saying, I've got a cold and I've forgotten that alcohol exists. So I'm going to just put in some old content here because I've forgotten about the medical miracle called alcohol. Actually, back then I hadn't even come across Tesco original dry cider 2-litre bottles. Absolutely fantastic. Anyway, oh yes, on with the show. Monkey nuts, that's what they call them. They call them big steaming, shit-eating, piss-piling, Tesco original dry cider drinking. It's interesting to know, incidentally, this is 5%, only 1% lower than Devil's Bit, 5% alcohol by volume, I should say. That's interesting because, well, it's not really at all, is it? It's not interesting at all, but you do know it when you're buying cheap cider, because the whole point of it is, the whole point of it is not to put too fine a point on it, but the whole point of drinking a 2-litre bottle of cheap cider is basically to block out the outside world and the world of your sore throat and the world of Nelson Mandela being dead. I don't want to live in a world where Nelson Mandela is dead. I don't have any choice in the matter. You don't get a choice of which worlds you want to live in. As far as I know, anyway, you don't get a choice. You're born into this world. Maybe at some future point we'll be able to travel to another world. But I think you'll find if we travel to other worlds in the future, Nelson Mandela will still be dead in those worlds too. So you still don't get a choice as to whether or not to live in a world where Nelson Mandela is dead. You can live in a world where Nelson Mandela never existed, all right. You go to Mars or somewhere and say, oh, I live in a world now where Nelson Mandela never existed, and so technically he's not dead. But you're just fooling yourself if you do that. You're just fooling yourself, and if you're just fooling yourself, you can be damn sure to Christ as hell that you're not fooling anybody else, except you are, and in a bad way. So don't be wasting your time on that. Don't be wasting. You've only so much time in life. I don't want to be doing that. Where was I? Where was I indeed? There's a question for you. I was here. I was here talking about Nelson Mandela. Free Nelson Mandela. Free Nelson Mandela. That was one of many songs around the team. I was just listening to Adam Carolla, had he mentioned that there was a song at one point called Free Nelson Mandela, and he played it, and I thought I knew a song called Free Nelson Mandela too, an Irish song by Irish artists that sounded a bit like that. Are they just rebranding this stuff for foreigners and putting foreigners in? They probably are. And then I lost interest. I said, fuck this, I'm going to make a podcast. A podcastual entertainment package for the people who live in your neighbourhood. That's from Sesame Street. Who are the people in your neighbourhood? Who are the people in your neighbourhood? The postman is a person in your neighbourhood. The postman is a person in your neighbourhood. Oh, that reminds me, I have two kittens. We got two kittens a couple of weeks ago called Minnie and Manny. Now you're probably thinking, Manny, is that named after Manny the mailman, listener in New Jersey? Not named after him, no, it's just coincidental, a happy coincidence. He's named after, Manny is named after, oh no. Oh, that's Minnie. Minnie is named after Muddy, my other cat. Middy is short for Middy Muddy. And Mandy, obviously, then is just to match Minnie. But there you go. I've already decided on the name of our next cat, though, because you had a cat before called Kofi, named after former Secretary General of the UN, Kofi Annan. And I realised that later one of his successors, Ban Ki-moon, also has a first name that would be suitable for a future cat. So I added it to my spreadsheet of possible future cat names. Banky the cat. So well done to the UN. You're great for coming up with possible cat names. Absolutely fucking fantastic. On with the show. Or is it over? Is the show over? I think it might be. It might be. Yeah, I think it might be. Is the show over? Only one way to find out.
You've been listening to Neal tell you stories. About cats, probably. Neal talks a lot about cats. Send your topic suggestions to studio@intoyourhead.com.
Into your head!